Oh, look, people will press you into declaring your point of view, and then if they take objection to it, which they may well, they'll attack you for it. And you'll feel a great division between you and them, and it's not a good experience. And you need to withdraw, of course, and learn the lesson. Be more cautious next time. Before you share, choose very good company. The reason for sharing ideally is indeed to rescue, but the one you rescue may turn and tear you to pieces because of where they are at the minute in their level of maturity or immaturity, whatever you like to call it. So how to discuss or be in discourse to profit, to gain, to good outcome instead of the bad? Well, we're just listening, and we encourage, and so we make comments that that reminds me of so and so, and I don't know, there are encouraging comments we can make. They reveal their view and may be very anxious to tell you their view. We don't have to contradict it with ours. We listen. Do we contribute? That's tricky. Especially in a group, it's tricky. Because, well, you can't keep track of what people are making of what you say. And they may be seeing you, hearing you very differently to what you think. You think you're putting forward what you understand to be good values that you have. And they are either not necessarily agreeing with those values yet, it's not been their experience, or they feel they've moved on from that, or they actually don't hear your words in the way that you think. There are obvious mistakes, like you're saying a particular view and they think it's yours. They assume that because you're talking about it, it's your view. So they shoot you down, so to speak, because they don't agree with this, it's all wrong. And then when you defend what you meant to say, they say, but you said so-and-so. And you may not have done at all. And quite literally the words they now put into your mouth are not the words that you said. And they're emphatic, it's their view of reality, you see. So you're at war over misunderstandings a great deal of the time. And sometimes, of course, you're at war over understandings. Now, you may have a reaction that's not aggressive, but they may be aggressive. You may, for instance, have conquered anger in large measure. They may not. And in that situation of anger, of course, they say all sorts of things. They may, as is quite a common fault that we know of, don't we, that they want to just win the argument. They're not pursuing truth. They just want to show that they are right and you are wrong. So they may use what you might well see as dishonest tricks of oratory and of argument. And you go round and round in circles, and you can't get a net word in edgeways, and if you do, well, that's not what they're listening for. They've decided they're in a war and they're going to win. So they contradict you even on things that they might in other circumstances feel that definitely right. There's a chaos, you see, in keeping chaotic company. To communicate well with each other, you need to be extremely civilized. You're not the sort of person who gets angry with at all. You're not the sort of person who has to win an argument. You're certainly not the sort of person who will judge or condemn the other. You're not the sort of person who rises in dominance because others suddenly criticize you. Now, if you're in company that doesn't do that as well, if you're in company that keeps these sort of civilized rules, conversation, then there's a harmony. And there's ideally a sincerity of relationship that develops, a friendship. So you might have love for another, but they not have love for you. Wow. You're not in fellowship. And if you act as though you are and discuss as if you were in full fellowship, you will suffer accordingly. It's not rocket science, is it? It's fairly obvious, as far as I can see. Does this mean we don't talk to talk to the rest? Those that are not so, if you like, harmoniously disposed to each other. Well, we do when they are distressed. There are times when anyone has ears to hear, especially when you've been a blessing to them and a help. But don't go so far as to let them, by mistake, ruin that relationship. In other words, in a very loving way, keep control of the situation. Don't try for that which is impossible. I know that's hard to judge, of course. But people are not ready for where you are yet. They're ready for their next step. you may see what that is and help towards it. You may get it wrong, or you may get it right, and they receive it wrongly because they still hear it wrongly. Oh, right, back off past. In other words, we're to converse and to interact in the civilized way. You know, I don't barge into someone's life and give them the gospel, so to speak. They may be utterly anti-such and hate you for it. You've gained nothing, just another enemy. You haven't blessed them at all. And it's been a great cost to yourself. Can be. They'll persecute you, quite simply. Well, they may do. Or they may just ostracize you, which is a sort of non-active way of passive aggression, isn't it? Passive aggression, yeah. Well, it sounded a bit harsh and stark, but don't cast your pearls before swine, lest they turn again and rend you. Those who have ears to hear, let them hear. And don't ram it down the throats of those that wouldn't want to hear. And don't. And be extremely cautious of addressing a group. When they ask you to give a talk, you might be wise to shy away from it. I mean, I'm a person who's very much at ease, public speaking. But I'm not necessarily received well. I'm received very well by some people. They come up and they tell you straight out and outright what a blessing that was. And so glad I heard you this morning. And others, they ferment. They may come up to your face and tell you how wrong you are. Or they may discuss it heavily with those who will agree with them how wrong you are. And you find there's a whole caucus within the group that's starting to war and ferment against you. Secular or large groups are a menace in that regard. There's always someone who can join with someone else and start to be something to be reckoned with, not blessed at all. How many pastors have been chucked out of their churches? How many leaders have been dethroned? And if they did that with the leaders, think how much easier it was to get rid of the members who had no power and support around them, or very little. It's the nightmare of being in the fallen world, isn't it? Civilization is very hard to harmonize. We have all sorts of sociological structures that help to keep it stable, keep it functioning, but it's so often a mess as regards the relationships and wars that are actually going on and harming people, draining their energies and happiness. So the spiritual massively tend to retire from the world. They're not the great socialites. They're the recluses. And they may be very hard to find. And you may have to be extremely fortunate to be blessed by them. But if you hunt them down, it's quite amazing how much blessed you will be. The finest example that comes to mind is Paramahansa's autobiography, where he shows that in his life he always hunted down anyone he heard of that was spiritually great in some way. Didn't matter what religion they were, or even no religion. You know, scientists and so on. He went to America because he would find great people there. Both ones that were outstanding in their field, but also ones that are not known at all. Some very low-profile people are simply lovely characters, wonderful persons, and such a blessing to know. So that's what you're looking for, whatsoever's good and lovely, you see. It's not just things and events in your life. It's people too. Creatures, perhaps. I mean, quite literally, are the birds in your garden blessed because you come to their rescue and there's shortage of food or shortage of water, perhaps even. Put out water for the birds. You know, some people feed their hedgehog, I think. Yeah. I've got a family, they are happy when the fantail comes in the living room. They tend to have their big French window doors open. And the little bird flies in and clings onto the brickwork of the fireplace and seems to catch the flies that are in the house and then goes out again. And when he's in, he chatters and chirps. You know, fantails got lovely little chattering they have. Absolutely adorable creatures. And when you walk across through the woodland, they skip along beside you. It could be because it's the sheer joy of being with you, but it may be because you lift off the insects as you walk. And as they go into the air and fly, of course, the fantail's having lunch. Yeah. I could fluff the surface of the water on my pond as a kiddie, and the fish would come to the surface because they knew I was going to feed them, and did. Because it wasn't so good when my cat put his paw in the water because he'd flick the fish out onto the grass. One or two, you know. Bit tricky that. So be careful what you're training creatures into. You may be training them into quite a difficult situation if you're not careful. Let me listen to this recording again, see where I've got to. Well, as you can imagine, I've been the most sociable and I've been the most dominant, and and perhaps in some ways the most troublesome. Yeah. And I'm not really a recluse by nature, not alone. I love being with someone that the relationship's good. Isn't that so with all of us? I sort of think it is. Perhaps it's one a degree and perhaps we're all different. not sure. Bless you. Thank you, Heavenly Dad.